Your mother can come in if she wants to. Tell her she can come in if she wants to.
You know, like when they came down the car,
She stay out there. She stay out there.
All right. It's running.
Yes, sir.
All right, well.
My name is Charles Michael Harkins. Could you state your name, sir?
Mr. Hawkins, my name is Abraham Lincoln Woods, Jr., and I think if you want to get this tape nice and clear, you're going to have to speak up.
Yes, sir.
A little bit.
Yes, sir.
All right.
What is your occupation today?
My occupation is minister professor. I minister of St. Joseph Baptist Church here, and I'm in my 28th year.
Yes, sir.
I'm also a professor at Miles College, where I've been serving on the faculty for 33 years, and I'm also a civil rights activist. Been in the civil rights movement ever since the 1950s.
What part did you play in the demonstration of the 60s and today?
Well, I played a very integral part in the demonstrations and civil rights activities of the 60s. Prior to the 60s, Reverend Fred Shuttlesworth was our leader. Reverend Fred Shuttlesworth organized the Alabama Christian Movement for Human Rights after the NAACP had been outlawed in the state of Alabama. The Attorney General of Alabama asked the NAACP for its membership roster. It refused to turn it over because it believed that the powers that be wanted to single out various members and harass them and intimidate them, and certainly put their jobs in jeopardy. So it did not turn over the membership roster, and as a result, it was enjoined by the Attorney General from doing business in Alabama. Reverend Shuttlesworth organized, a little after that, the Alabama Christian Movement for Human Rights at Sardis Baptist Church. I was a part of that coming together, and we worked with Reverend Shuttlesworth in the 50s, trying to desegregate the buses, trying to desegregate public facilities, and then Dr. King was invited to come to Birmingham in 1962. He didn't come in 62 because the city was changing its form of government, and we thought that that was a little hope that the new administration was going to be more receptive to doing what was right, but we found out that wasn't so, and so the massive demonstrations got started in 1963. I led the first group to sit in at the department stores.
Yes, sir.
And my group was one of the first groups to go to jail. And we were arrested at the old Newberry's department store. We stayed in jail for a week, and we refused to be bonded out. And we had to pledge it. I did, and some of the others who were some of the little leaders, we worked on the city's farm. I didn't know the city had a farm until after getting in jail.
Yes,
but
sir.
I was very much involved, marched with Dr. King. We strategized with him. We ate with him. And I went on speaking engagements for him.
Yes, sir.
So I was very much involved in the civil rights demonstrations of 1960. And I have not abandoned the civil rights struggle even at this date.
Yes, sir.
I've been active just about all the way from that period up until now. It's something that gets in your blood, and somebody need to be able to say something and deal with the racism and the discrimination and the injustices of our period. And it so happened that seemingly, to some extent, that lot has fallen on me.
Did you attend the Million Man March?
No, I did not attend the Million Man March. I had mixed feelings about the Million Man March. I had Farrakhan here. In fact, when Farrakhan first spoke in Birmingham, none of the large churches would let him appear there due to his controversial nature. And the committee asked me would I let him come and speak here at our church, and I did. And so he came and he spoke, and we had a very cordial meeting. He signed an autograph, we took pictures together and that sort of thing. I don't agree and I didn't agree then with everything Farrakhan said, and I don't agree now. But the next time Farrakhan came, he was scheduled to stop at Sardis. They had bought the big white church up there, and also to speak at the auditorium. At that time, I was involved in the Shoal Creek controversy, and I was very surprised and disappointed that Farrakhan criticized that effort and said we did not need to be trying to open up golf courses for black folk and this sort of thing. It wasn't that I was trying to open it up for our people to golf. It was that I was striking out at racism. Yes, because Mr. Thompson had said that blacks and whites didn't do that here. And I thought if blacks wanted to play golf, then over there, that in this day and time, it was not Bull Connor's time. We had moved from that they could play golf. But I was very disappointed that he didn't call me by name, but he criticized it. We didn't need to be doing that sort of thing. I was very disappointed. And I thought sure that Farrakhan would have said to me, Reverend Woods, I'm glad to see you. I want to thank you for letting me come to your church. Last time I was here because nobody else would let me come. So it put a bad taste in my mouth. It was not just that, but I didn't like the idea of it being called Farrakhan's March. I was the deputy director for the South for the March on Washington when Dr. King spoke at the Lincoln Memorial. I worked out of his office, and I traveled all over the Southeast, back and forth to the North, flying every day, mobilizing trains, mobilizing buses, getting cars together, airplanes, in order to carry people up to the march. And all of the leaders, we'd meet up there in New York at the Urban League's headquarters, and Whitney Young, who was head of the Urban League at that time, he was there. The head of the NAACP was there. Clyde Rustin was there. And also the president of the sleeping car pullers, Randolph, A. Philip Randolph was there. The leader of CORE was there. The leader of SNCC was there. Religious leaders were there. Labor leaders were there. And so it was a situation where all of these leaders had come together, and the march wasn't called after either one of them. You see, it was not their march, but it was all our march. And I didn't go to Farrakhan's march because I had mixed emotions about it. And I'm glad I didn't go now because he's been over in South Africa and embarrassed Mandela by talking about white superiority, black superiority over there. He'd been to Iran where they had a demonstrations, and he joined in with them in calling the United States a great Satan. He went on over to Iraq and got with Saddam Hussein and criticized this country. He also went to Libya where Gaddafi has been granting asylum to terrorists, people that bomb planes and bomb buses and kill innocent folk. Yes, and Gaddafi promised to give him $1 billion to come back here and recruit and mobilize disadvantaged black folk. I'm glad I didn't go to the march because in spite of what's wrong with the United States, you don't get with the country's enemies and denounce this country. I'm going to do all I can to help this country to be a country where all of us can enjoy the rights and privileges for every citizen. But I am an American, and I'm not going to get with Saddam Hussein. I'm not going to get with Gaddafi. I'm not going to get with anybody and denounce this country. I'm going to stay here and be an agitator is what they called me. And I used to object to that, but I found out that an agitator in the washing machine is what get the dirt out.
Yes, sir.
So I'm trying to get the injustice out, the racism out, the discrimination out, and all of that stuff that's in this society here that should not be, that keep us from being brothers and keep us from being citizens who can enjoy all of the privileges that anybody else enjoy.
Yes, sir. What do you see in our future?
Well, I'm very frightened about our future. Dr. King gave his life, and many other civil writers gave their life. I think about Charles Billups, who was one of the ministers here, who gave his life in the struggle. I think about Bill Shortridge, who struggled and died. I think about James Pfeiffer, Reverend James Pfeiffer. I think about so many others. I think about so many who died. I think about those young girls at 16th Street who died in that blast. I think about the young man who was shot in the back by the Birmingham police with a shotgun after a few of them threw some rocks. After Virgil Ware was killed, a young fella that was riding on a bicycle out on the outskirts, and White came up and shot him down. Those people and others gave their lives, but they didn't die for blacks to kill blacks like they're killing blacks. Dr. King articulated at the Lincoln Memorial his dream, and his dream is the dream of all of us, whether sons and daughters of slave owners, former slave owners, and the sons and daughters of former slaves could get together and eat at the table of brotherhood. And he talked about that would be the day when we all can declare, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we're free at last. When men and women would be judged by their character rather than by the color of their skin. But what we have going on here, this mad slaughter of blacks by blacks, you see, Dr. King died that we might have a better day. It's not the Ku Klux Klan, it's not the skinheads, but it's black folk who are the biggest threats now to black folk. We've got to recognize that we are our brother's keeper and not our brother's killer. I think Dr. King is turning over in his grave. And then this other thing of so many of our people becoming victimized by drugs, cracks, and cocaine, and marijuana, and all of those drugs. I'm reminded that when the slavers went to West Africa to swap commodities and get slaves from those chieftains and others who sold their fellow Africans out, they took rum. They took rum, and rum is an alcoholic beverage. Rum is a whiskey that will make you drunk.
Yes, sir.
And they swapped about $25 worth of rum for each one of those slaves. And in some instances, they didn't get that much. And they took those slaves and they swapped them. They gave them about $25 worth of rum, and sometimes less than that, and got a slave. And they got back over here and they sold the slave for $150, and later for $300, and later $600, and later on $1,500, and so on before the Civil War started. But those our forefathers were sold into slavery because of rum, and we see history repeating itself. Here we go again, becoming slaves to the crack. Crack dealers are just like the slave dealers, selling crack in our community and enriching themselves and enslaving our people. And when they get on that stuff, then they become liabilities and not assets. And they are not going to be able to help us reach freedom land. In fact, they become a menace to society. And the drug traffic and the drug addiction, I think, are the things which are driving the crime wave, the gangs, you see, and that sort of thing. And and the black-on-black homicides. So history repeats itself. Some of our people have gone back into slavery, and so the future looks dismal. If we don't know our history, if we don't know from whence we come, then we don't know who we are.
Yes, sir.
We don't know where we are. We don't know what we ought to be doing. And we don't know where we ought to be going. And what I see is a crisis of identity. Many blacks don't know who they are. And they don't know where they are. I think if they did, if they knew the sacrifices, the blood, the sweat, the tears, the agony, and all of that went into the cost of getting us where we are, then they would appreciate it and they would act with some decency, wearing their pants halfway below their behinds, you see, and this sort of thing, looking like tramps. And that's the stereotype that white folk have of us, that we are tramps, that we are clowns, calling our women out of their name, gangster rap, and all of that kind of crap. You see, we've got to recognize that we are somebody, and we've got to respect ourselves if we want other people to respect us, and we've got to live and act and talk in a respectable manner.
Yes, sir. Do you have any basic views on rap at all?
Well, I've heard some rap, and the words were good. The words had a message. In fact, we have a grandmother here, Mrs. Eva Lou Russell, who raps all around town. We call her Grandma Rap. But she has a message. She has a message. And what bothers me, I have nothing against rap if it has a message, an uplifting
yes, sir.
message.
Yes, sir.
But those kind of verses which are demeaning, words which are demeaning and that sort of thing, and which cater to that which is little and low and ugly and nasty in folk, I have a problem with that, you see. We're here in America, you see, and they have their stereotypes about us anyhow, you see. And when we're acting up out there, they say, yeah, just like we thought, you see, just like, you know, and this sort of thing. And we are a minority in this country. What you got to understand, we make up only about 12% of the population in this country. And other people make up 88%. You see, we are a minority. And of course, we ought to have a wake-up call now with what the Republicans are talking about. You see, cutting various benefits and giving certain prerogatives back to the states. The states' rights used to be state wrongs for black folk, you see, and we wanted the federal government to intervene. Now the Republicans are talking about state rights. That's why the South have embraced Republicans. Would you have believed that southern states would not have voted for two fine southern young men running for president and vice president? Clinton from Arkansas, Go from Tennessee, but Alabama, Florida, and other southern states didn't vote for them. They voted for a Yankee, Bush. You know, he's a Yankee. Folk live in Florida now, but he had no, in Texas, he hadn't always lived there. But would you have believed that they would have turned their backs on their own Southerners? It's because they like their talk and they like their program of putting blacks on the sideline. That's what it's all about. So we ought to get a wake-up call. Maybe God sent Newt Gingrich to come to do his talk, and maybe Buchanan, who's forging to the front now. We thought Gingrich was extreme, and Dole and Graham and all those other fellows was extreme. Buchanan is super extreme. Black rights were on the back burner with some of the others. It's not even going to be on the agenda with Buchanan. And he's going to cut out educational benefits and disadvantaged students who are in college and getting government benefits. They're going to take that, certainly welfare, these young ladies who are on welfare and that sort of thing. And of course, we got too many babies having babies. You see, we didn't die for that. We've got to draw the line somewhere. And white people are not our biggest enemy now. We are our worst enemy now. And so we're going to have to draw the line somewhere, and we're going to have to come to ourselves, and we're going to have to recognize that we got a lot of work to do, and nobody's going to do it for us but ourselves.
Do you believe that we have the right president, or who you think should be the president, who you think could run this country much better than any of the other presidents in the past? Or do you
I would have preferred the great general who thought about getting into the race,
Colin Powell.
Colin Powell. I think Colin Powell is a great man. I read his book, at least some of it. I listened to interviews, and I'm very impressed by Colin Powell. I think Colin Powell would have made one of the best presidents that this country had ever had. He's Republican, but he spoke out against some of the initiatives that the Republicans believed in. He believed that we need some affirmative action. Unlike Thomas, who was on the Supreme Court, and affirmative action helped to move him up through the ranks where he get where he is, and he's turned his back on affirmative action as if he pulled himself up by his own bootstraps. And as Americans in this society, they took the straps. We didn't have no bootstraps to pull ourselves up by like anybody else. Thomas is a great disappointment, but Colin Powell, I think, is a great man, a diplomat, a statesman, a man of integrity, and a man of great character and veracity. And I wish it had been possible for him to run. I certainly think he did the right thing in getting out, because I would not have wanted to see him hurt in this dog-eat-dog political kind of situation that we have in America. He's too fine a man to get out there and all this poison politics, you see, that these people engaging in. If there had been some way for him to run without being subjected to that, and this country could have elected him, I think that he would have made the best president that we could have had.
Yes, sir. Thank you for this conversation, and I enjoyed talking.
Well, young man, I'm glad to talk with you, and I hope I said something that will be helpful, not only for you and your in the class for which you have this interview, but I hope I said something to inspire you. You look like you're going to be a great man.
Yes, sir.
More power to you, and God bless you for coming.